Hello and welcome to Turning Point Tactics. On this episode, I'm talking about Killteam Shadow Hunt, the brand new release of Warhammer 40,000's Killteam, and specifically doing a rules review of the new MurderWing at Killteam. Thank you very much to Games Workshop for sending me an early review copy, which means I can get this out to you and talk through what the new rules of the new team are. Hopefully you find it informative. I'll try and do a deep dive video subsequent to this, will be available on the Patreon a little bit earlier for people, where I go into a bit more of the tactics of the team, but this is so you can understand what the team does, what their key rules are, and where I think they're going to be in the meta. So, with all that said, let's get straight into it. Hello and welcome to Turning Point Tactics, the competitive Killteam 40k YouTube channel focused on giving you the strategies and tactics to seize initiative every turning point. I'm your host Ryan, and I'm here to help give you the tips and tricks to elevate every part of your Killteam experience. So no matter if you're a casual or a competitive player, there should be something here for you. If you're interested in supporting the channel, there's a few ways you can go about doing so. You can join the Patreon, where you get access to members only Discord, Patreon priority questions, early access to content, exclusive content, and tournament awards. Or if you find yourself buying Killteam goodies or hobby supplies, you can use one of our affiliate links in the description below, or discount codes with Crossfire Games and GG Prints. We're always keen to hear your thoughts and feedback, so don't leave that comment box empty, let us know what you think. Once again, thanks for your support, and with all that said, let's get into it. Okay, so as you can see, we're talking Shadow Hunt today, and this is the release day for the two new brand new teams. I've done a different video talking about Celestian and Insidiant, so if you want to look at the video for them, check that out on my channel, and you can see what my thoughts are about the new Sisters team. But this is going to be focusing on the brand new MurderWing team, the jump pack equipped Space Marines. So let's get straight into it. So clearly, there were some leaks from Spain a little bit earlier on in the season. So the Killteam composition for this team has been already revealed, but we can see what they have when it comes to this. So essentially, it's a 6-operative kill team, 3 Marine these are all 3 APL. The archetypes are Recon and Seek and Destroy. There is actually a lot of choices when it comes to how you want to kit your team out and what operatives you want to take in to the kill zone. So the Raptor operative is essentially your warrior operative for this kill team, but you can see that each of the others are unique, and there's loads of ways that you can build them. So firstly, you have the Chaos Lord. I believe, in my personal opinion, optimal way to run the Chaos Lord is just going to be with those relic lightning claws. So no sort of bolt pistol or anything like that, or plasma pistol. That's personally how I would recommend running him, but you could equip him with a bolt pistol, a plasma pistol, lightning claw, power fist, or power weapon as alternative means of being able to kit him out. And we'll talk about his rules in a bit. You also have the champion operative. That champion can have a plasma pistol or a bolt pistol, and then a power fist or a power weapon. Generically, if you're building the team just from one box, I recommend a plasma pistol and a power weapon onto the champion there. Then you have the various specialists. So you have the Curse Claw, the Depredator, the Hunts Master, the Raptor, as I said previously, is the warrior-like operative, the Shrieker, the Sky Seer, armed with Flamer, Melter Gun, or Plasma Gun, and finally the Warp Talon. So again, when it comes to weapon options, I highly recommend that you get the Melter Gun on the Sky Seer, but also the Plasma Gun because the synergy it works with their rules. And I've already said, they're Recon and they are Seek and Destroy. So let's get into the rest of their rules, because I think it's going to be more interesting. People are going to probably figure out more about how the team works. So faction rules. So this is obviously, some people have seen this, probably from the Warhammer community articles and that sort of stuff. And essentially it's a way that you're going to get access to a mechanism similar to Fly. So I'll read the rules. Jump pack. Whenever a friendly murdering operative is performing the charge, fallback, or reposition action during its activation at the start of any straight line increment, as long as no part of its base is underneath vantage terrain, it can do a boost for that increment. If it does, don't move it for that increment. Instead, remove it from the kill zone and set it back up wholly within X horizontally of its original location. X is a distance of your choice rounded up to the nearest inch as per the reposition action, but it's added to the total move distance used for that action. In other words, move plus boost cannot exceed the action's move allowance. That operative must be set up in a location it can be placed and cannot be set up with with any part of its base underneath vantage terrain. In addition, unless it's the charge action, it cannot be set up within control range of an enemy operative. It can continue moving after a boost if it has any move distance remaining and the action allows it. In a kill zone that uses close quarters rules, e.g. Killzone Tomb World, the X cannot be measured over or through wall terrain, and that operative cannot be set up on the other side of an access point. In other words, it cannot boost through an open hatchway. In this example, MurderWing Operative A does a boost for the second increment of movement. It moves as normal during the first and third increments, as it cannot boost from or to a location underneath vantage terrain. So essentially what you're seeing there is, in that first diagram, is you can walk 1 inch out, boost in a straight line, and then walk 1 inch in. You can also do the same thing with charging and all that sort of stuff. The key bits that I want to just focus on, so you understand where the limitations are on jetpacks. So it's charge, fallback, and reposition only. So you can't dash boosting. So you can dash then boost with a dash, reposition, and boost during the reposition, or charge and do it during that. But you can't be using the dash to get the boost. And then also it's during its activation. So if you're doing a counter action or you're doing some sort of movement in someone else's activation, you're not going to be able to use the boost. Okay, so important to note there, right? Like, it's only during your activation. It doesn't work on dashes. You can't do it underneath vantage terrain. You have to step out and then you move forwards. On ITD, the way this is often going to work is you're going to walk through the hatchway, sort of directly forwards, costing you that penalty for accessible. Then you're going to be able to boost over all your opponent's terrain and get into where you need to be able to go. But this is still a very, very strong faction rule. Clearly, it's letting you essentially get up onto vantage really, really easily, stage really effectively, and being like an optimal position when it comes to being able to move your operatives around. So a very, very strong faction rule from the jump back. Next up, we have boost actions. Some actions are known as boost actions. These are actions performed during other actions when a boost is used. Each operative cannot perform more than one boost action per activation / counter action. Now this is interesting to me because clearly, like, you can only boost during your activation, but here it's saying you can't do a boost more than once per activation or counter action, but just be aware of. Most boost actions affect enemy operatives within a friendly MurderWing operative's boost zone. This is in the horizontal area between a friendly MurderWing operative's current location and the location from which it used boost. A marker the same size operative's base can be temporarily placed to help determine this. Enemy operatives with any part of their base underneath vantage terrain are not within friendly operatives MurderWing's boost zones. So if you can tuck your base slightly underneath a vantage, you can avoid this boost zone. In this example, the top operative C is within the MurderWing operative's A boost zone. The bottom operative B is not, as its base is underneath vantage terrain. So that's the jump back and boost actions. Again, so main thing is you can only do one boost action per activation or counter action. As I said, dashes don't count, and you only can do it during your activation. So some limits there on how this works. Finally, you have the Astartes faction rule. Is pretty standard. So you can do two shoot actions or 2 fight actions, and if it's 2 shoot actions, a bolt pistol must be selected for at least one of them. Good news is that the gunners have bolt pistols, so you can shoot your plasma gun and then a bolt pistol, but you can't shoot your plasma gun twice or your melter gun twice, which kind of makes sense. And then finally, each friendly MurderWing operative can counteract regardless of its order. So like most Astartes, you're able to do the same sort of things. So let's look at ploys then, because ploys are always important, and this team has some very important ploys to look at. So firstly, we'll do strategy ploys. Predators above. Whenever a friendly MurderWing operative is at least 2 inches higher than the kill zone floor, its weapons have the balanced weapon rule. Whenever a friendly MurderWing operative does a boost, its weapons have the balanced weapon rule until the end of that activation. So if you're charging, repositioning, falling back during your activation, you're going to get balanced. And if you're on advantage anywhere that's 2 inches high, you're going to be getting balanced as well on your weapons. So you can get defensive balance if you're on advantage, but you can also get offensive balanced if you are moving around. Note that also if you're gunners, if you're on advantage, that balanced is going to be applicable if you're on advantage or during activation. So if you're on advantage shooting and then you counteract and shoot on there, you're also going to get access to that balance. So a really good way of getting balanced, in my opinion. Most of the time, you're going to be staging up on advantages with this team, which means if someone charges you on advantage, well, you're going to be more than 2 inches higher than the kill zone floor. You're therefore going to be able to get that rule. And then when you go and do your charges, you're always going to have done a boost action, and therefore, again, because you've done a boost, you're now going to be able to get access to this as well. So a really, really strong reliability buff when it comes to damage output, which is great to see. Next up is Cull of the Week. Whenever a friendly murdering operative is shooting or fighting, its weapons have the punishing weapon rule if any of the following are true for the operative that friendly operative is shooting or fighting against. So if you are like doing one of these three things, then you are going to gain punishing. So if you are shooting or fighting an enemy operative that is at least 2 inches lower than that friendly operative, i.e. you're on advantage and you're shooting someone not on advantage beneath you, then you're going to get punishing. Its APL stat is less than normal. So if you're shooting or fighting someone that has then an APL reduction, then again, you're going to be able to gain punishing. And finally, it was wounded at the start of the activation/counteraction, and therefore wounded is just not full starting wounds. Okay, so if someone is not, this isn't injured, this is just wounded, right? So if you're not full health, then they're going to be able to get punishing against you as well. We'll come on to what this team does later on when it comes to chip damage, but there's loads of ways to get chip damage. But the main thing is if you do chip damage during your activation, you're not going to get punishing as a result. It has to be at the start of your activation where you do that chip damage. Next up is Nightmare on High. Whenever an operative is shooting a friendly murdering operative that is at least 2 inches higher than the kill zone floor, or that did a boost during this turning point, you can reroll one of your defense dice. So again, on like turning point 2, whatever, if you've staged on Vantage on turning point 1 and you have a whole bunch of people like waiting on Vantage, then your entire team's going to have essentially a balanced defensive dice with a 3-up save. That's really, really easy to get. That's really useful and is a great durability buff in a sense. And then note that as soon as you've done a boost action, which again, if you charge, if you reposition or you fall back, you're going to be doing a boost action. Then you're going to get balanced in defense as well. So and that lasts for the whole turning point. So that's a really strong defensive buff and a great ploy to be able to have access to. Finally, we have Instill Fear. Whenever a friendly murdering operative is fighting, normal damage of 3 or more inflicts 1 less damage on it. So this is a damage reduction when you're going in and fighting people. This actually probably isn't as impactful as you would think initially. Like normally damage reduction is massive. This probably saves you a single pip of damage because of the way that the team is going to operate. So you're unlikely to want to fight someone and kill someone if you're not going to kill that individual in 2 hits. If you're going to kill that individual within 2 hits, then you're only really going to be taking 1 hit of damage from them. You're relying on them not rolling a crit, and then you take a bit less. If you think you're going to be doing a lot of fighting and you need to chop like through multiple hits on people, maybe you're against a team that's got that's really, really tanky and therefore you need 3 hits to kill. This is going to have more and more value as time goes on. Okay, overall, when it comes to strat ploys, these are all great. They all have a use case. They are all relatively easy to achieve. If you play the team correctly, i.e. you stage on Vantage initially, and then you go in and start fighting, you're going to be doing really well. One of the things I will note is the strength level of this team on Volcus versus, say, Tomb World and ITD is going to be completely different. Because if you're on Volcus or Beta Decima, if you're on beta decimal, you're basically going to be on vantage the entire game, and therefore you're always going to be balanced. You're always going to have rerolls in defense or whatever, and you're going to be able to get all of these buffs really, really easily. Whereas if you're on Tomb World or something like that, then actually access to these buffs is a little bit harder, but still pretty good. Okay, let's go through the Firefight ploys, because there's some really important ones to talk about in here as well. So firstly, malicious narcissism. Use this Firefight ploy when it's your turn to activate. If only one friendly murdering operative is ready until the end of the turning point, whenever any ready enemy operatives are in the kill zone, you can skip your activations. In other words, you can delay that friendly murdering operative's activation. Note that you cannot counteract until that friendly murdering operative is expended. So the way that this works, right? So you go to activate your last model, right? So you've done the rest of your team, you've activated all 5, and you're about to activate your 6th and final murdering operative. Well, you can spend a CP, and you can then delay that murdering operative's activation until the last activation of the game. That is very, very strong. So you're going to be able to keep passing with these activations, and you're going to be able to get that last activation. Now, you can't do counteract with the other murdering operatives, but let's say you're playing a Turning Point 2, where you want to control the pace of the game and that sort of thing, against a team that activates you. This ploy is phenomenal. Like, this is one of the strongest ploys in the game, because of the team that it's on. So on an elite team, this is so strong. If this was on like a horde team, no one would care. You already have that activation advantage. But one of the horde team's main strengths is activation advantage, and this 1 CP ploy says, nope, you're not going to get that. I'm going to get the last say. And bear in mind, you can have a melter gun, or you can have a very, very effective melee operative. That is very, very strong, and it means that you can play crit up really well, and you can deny your opponent being able to kill you or stage or go for that sort of first activation. Really, really, really big. Next up, Murderous Descent. Uses Firefight ploy when an enemy operative ends the charge, dash, fallback, or reposition action within 3 inches horizontally of a friendly murdering operative, or in close quarters 2 inches, and that enemy operative must be in a different room to where it started that action. Interrupt that enemy operative's activation/counter action and immediately perform a free charge action with that friendly operative. It must end that action within control range of any operative. If this isn't possible, the interruption is cancelled and this rule hasn't been used. Okay, so essentially this is an interrupt ploy, and the way that it's worded. Okay, so again, just for clarity, with a boost, your boost only works during your activation, right? So what this does though is if you go 3 inches horizontally of a murdering operative, they're going to be able to do a charge, which will be their full charge movement, which is 8 inches, to be able to charge you, to be able to then get within 3 inches. So they can move quite a long way with this, because they're not restricted by how far they can move. They're restricted by how close you get to them. So if you go within 2 inches of them, they can move a full 8 inches to be able to reach you. So really, really impactful. Note also that this doesn't work. There's no order flip for this, right? So if you're on conceal, you're not going to be able to change your order and do a charge. So it's only going to work if you have a model on engage to be able to do a charge action from there. So a few caveats that aren't immediately obvious when you read deploy. Your model has to be on engage. You're not going to be able to boost when you do this. However, this is a very, very strong ploy. You know, if you have a model that's on advantage, that's on engage, and someone moves within 3 inches horizontally, maybe onto an objective or something like that, and they're about to now loot that objective or take that objective from you, you can charge 8 inches, place your model onto that objective, and then now you have 3 APL control over that objective that they didn't have previously. Very, very strong, really useful, and a great use opportunity. For, you know, if it comes up in a big way. Now on ITD, essentially they have to move between one room to another, so they have to go through a hatchway and then you can jump out from the other side of a hatchway, just for awareness. Okay, next up, Long Forgotten Honour. Uses Firefight ploy when a friendly MurderWing operative is fighting or retaliating. When you resolve a critical success, instead of striking or blocking, end that sequence. Any remaining attack dice are discarded and immediately perform a free fallback action up to 3 inches with that operative. Then the fight action ends. That operative can do so even if it performs an action that prevents it from performing the fallback action. Okay, few things on this. Firstly, it's really strong. Like, if you go in and you whiff on your dice, but you have a single crit, and you don't want to lose your operative, you can just say, no, I'm not going to fight you. I'm actually going to run away and do a fallback by essentially not doing any damage, but just moving out. Also note that if you have multiple crits, you could potentially say, yep, I'm going to hit you with my normal whatever, and I'm going to hit you with a crit, and then with my last crit I'm going to use this and run away. And the fact that it works when retaliating is also huge. But I just want to again just caveat on this, because the boost only works during your activation. If you charge someone, fight them, and then you use this ploy, you're going to have the boost ability when you do the fallback. If you are being fought and someone's charged you and you're retaliating, and then you use this ploy, you won't have boost when you do the fallback. Hopefully that makes sense. Okay, but again, a really, really strong Firefight ploy. This is going to keep your operatives alive. If your enemy comes in and they charge you and they get like a really good roll, but you have that sort of crit in your back pocket, being able to run away from them and keep your operative alive during your activation is really big. So good to see there. And then finally, Wings of Darkness uses Firefight ploy when a friendly MurderWing operative is performing the fallback or reposition action. When it does a boost, that operative can be set up an additional 3 inches away during that boost, adding this to the permitted move distance, but it cannot perform the shoot, fight, or carving blow action until the next turning point. You cannot use this ploy during the first turning point. So this is essentially a load of additional movement available to you to be able to get you out and about and potentially be able to reach an objective that people didn't think you could reach previously. Again, a few caveats that aren't immediately obvious, but just to make sure. You can't add it to a charge, right? So you're not going to be able to charge crazy distances. You can't do it during that first turning point to be able to get somewhere and do some really horrible things to people with threat ranges. And you can't do the shoot, fight, or carving blow until the next turning point. So you also can't do it during a counteract. So you can't do like a really long move dash, like 12 inches, whatever, and then suddenly try and shoot someone during a counteraction. Nope, not until the next turning point. So just a good caveat to make sure people are aware of that. Overall, all 4 of these are great. All 4 strat ploys are great. This is like a really good like suite of ploys, and therefore CP for this team is going to be incredibly important, because you want to have as many of these up as possible, because all of them are so valuable to you. And I'm not saying you use all of them every game, but if you're out activated versus hordes, malicious narcissism is great. If there's someone's about to take an objective that you don't want to take, murderous dissent's really good. If you're against a melee team and that sort of stuff, Long Forgotten Honour is good. If you lose a model unexpectedly and you need to reposition someone across the board to be able to do a mission action that you weren't expecting, Wings of Darkness is really good. So they all have a use case. They're all a bit like, I'm not saying it's like, every single turn you're going to use this. I'm just saying that like they are all useful, and you will definitely find ways to use them. And the strategy ploys are also great. So let's talk about the operatives then. I already talked a little bit about this, but we'll start with the Chaos Lord. So he's on a 40mm base, he's a big boy, he's 3 APL, 6-inch move, 3 up save, and he's 15 wounds. You can see his weapons that are available there. So either you're going to get a bolt pistol or a plasma pistol, a lightning claw, a power fist, or a power weapon. I'll just quickly talk about the ones that are non-standard. What I did forget to mention is that you are limited. I'll just quickly jump back and just talk about it now. You can only have 2 plasma pistols or plasma gun or melter gun combined, right? So you can have a melter gun and a plasma pistol. You can have 2 plasma pistols. You can have a plasma gun and a plasma pistol, but you can't take a melter gun and 2 plasma pistols or 3 plasma pistols, whatever. So just for awareness, it's only 2 good shooting weapons on this team. Cool. Lightning Claw. 5 attacks on 3s, 4/5, lethal 5 rending. Good profile, pretty good. That and a bolt pistol is a perfectly good loadout for this operative to have. That and a plasma pistol is also perfectly good. Lethal 5 rending, hitting on 3s is good with that many attacks. So really nothing to be said bad about that. You could also be armed with the Power Fist, which goes down to 4 attacks. Still hitting on 3s though, but 5/7 Brutal Shock. I think that's a great change. That they usually like to make these things hit on 4s, but actually hitting on 3s, just less attacks, is actually just a much better way of doing it. So I like that as a change. Makes perfect sense. Then you have the option of a standard power weapon, which is 5 attacks, 3s, 4/6 lethal 5. Also a great choice. But the default choice I think you're going to end up going with is that Relic Lightning Claws, which is going to be 5 attacks, 3s, 4/6, ceaseless lethal 5, and rending. For me, I think it's the access to 4/6 that's going to be really impactful, particularly with the rending, and because of the way that his special rules work when it comes to damnation, I think it's going to be really, really useful. But as I said, you can take him with a bolt pistol, you can take him with standard lightning claw or power weapon, whatever you want to do, or even a power fist if that's what you want to do. And there's definitely probably some use cases as to when you want to do that. But I think with the access this team has to punishing, having like the ability to have lethal 5 is really good. You are probably going to have balanced, but if you're balanced and you're ceaseless and you're hitting on 3s, those Relic Lightning Claws are going to feel like they're relentless. And I think for most of the time that's going to be good enough to kill most things that you're worried about. But then you will lose your shooting output. So there is a trade-off there to be had. Okay, but special rules. So, Path to Damnation. This operative starts the battle with 1 damnation point. Once per action, you can attempt to use 1 boon of damnation when it specifies. See right. If you do, roll 1d6 and compare the result to the number of damnation points this operative has. If the result is higher, resolve the rule, then this operative gains 1 damnation point. If it's equal, do not resolve the rule. And if it's less, inflict damage on this operative equal to the number of damnation points and do not resolve the rule. If this operative has 6 damnation points, resolve the rule without rolling. Note that you cannot make an attempt more than once per action, regardless of the d6 result. Okay, so essentially, you're going to roll a dice the first time that you do this, and on a 2-up, you're going to get the benefit of the boon of damnation. But then every time you roll the dice subsequently, it's going to get harder for you to do and have greater risk should it not work out for you. So the first time you roll it, it's a 2-up, then it's going to become a 3-up, and if you roll a 1, you take damage. Then it's going to become a 4-up, and you take a 1 or a 2, you take damage. Then it's going to be a 5-up, you get the idea, right? Okay, the boons then. Boon of damnations are as follows. Resolve with a d6, rolls the opposite. When an attack dice inflicts damage of 3 or more on this operative, you can ignore an amount of damage equal to this operative's damnation points. So essentially, the first time someone does damage to you during an action, you can roll your dice. If you roll a 2-up, because you'll have 1 damnation point, if anything but a 1, it's going to work, and then you're going to reduce the damage by 1. And then if it's during a next action, you can roll the dice, and then if you roll a 3-up, then so long as you do that, it will reduce the damage by 2. Pretty cool. When this operative is fighting or retaliating and you strike, you can inflict an additional amount of damage equal to this operative damnation points. So again, this is why I think the rending claws are really, really good, because you're going to be 4/6, ceaseless lethal 5 and rending, but with damnation points, the first time you fight, you're going to be able to make that essentially feel like it's 5/7, because the first time you hit, it's going to be able to do that damage, and therefore you're going to be able to potentially just one-hit 7 wound operatives, by being able to do this on a 2-up, and the next time you do it, you're going to be able to one-hit 8 wound operatives with this kind of model. Really, really strong. Additionally, you can use it during your opponent's turn to give yourself more damage reduction, and that's going to work in more ways than the damage reduction that you would get normally when just fighting. Now, there's nothing here that says that you can't stack the two, right? So if you are fighting and you have the damage reduction up, I believe that you can stack both of those. So you can say, yep, I take some damage and I reduce it again, and you can reduce the damage by potentially a lot. So I guess you could reduce it by 7, I guess theoretically, but unlikely to happen. I like the risk payoff with this as well, because each time you do it, there's a risk that you're going to take damage. So the damage reduction one becomes more risky. So just something to be aware of. But the chance to be able to one-hit some key operatives, I think, is really good. So choosing when to do a damnation ball is going to be important. But I think having access to those one-hits against 7 and 8 wound operatives is going to be really, really strong. So a great profile for a leader. This guy looks like he's going to be murderous. Next up, we have a champion. He is 3 APL, 6-inch move, 3-up save, and 14 wounds. He has a bolt pistol, plasma pistol, power fist, or power weapon. I personally think the best loadout for this guy is going to be a plasma pistol and a power weapon. As I said, he's got access to punishing quite easily. He's got access to balance quite easily. And therefore, having a combination of those things means that you're going to be able to potentially increase your reliability. And you want this guy to be reliably killing people. Because his special rules is Chaos Champion, Strategic Gambit. Remove your challenge token from the enemy operative that has it, if any. Then select one enemy operative to gain your challenge token. Whenever this operative is fighting against or retaliating against an enemy operative that has your challenge token, in the select weapons step, you can select one of the following weapon rules for this operative's melee weapons to have until the end of the sequence. And that's balanced, brutal, punishing, severe, or shock. Really, really strong, right? So you'll notice that the power fist that you can have is 4 attacks on 3s, 5, 7, and brutal shock. But you can give your power weapon brutal if you wanted to, or you can give your power weapon severe or whatever you need. So if you know that you're needing a crit to be able to kill someone in one hit, then you could potentially go in and use this to be able to guarantee it. On a power fist, that's also really good. So I think there's a use case for the power fist, but note that it only works against the enemy that you're fighting against that has your challenge token, or retaliating against. Cool. Really strong rule. This guy's going to be a very reliable melee killer. Note as well that you're probably going to have access to balanced, and you're probably going to have access to punishing through your strat ploys. So in my opinion, you're looking probably more at the brutal, severe, and the shock options. Unless you have a situation where you don't have access to those for whatever reason. Okay, next up is Path to Glory. Whenever this operative incapacitates an enemy operative that has your challenge token, you gain 1 CP. So this guy is really important to your game plan, because if you choose the right people to have a challenge token, he's going to be able to generate you CP. I've already said deploys are great, so this person getting you as much CP as possible is like chef's kiss. You want to try and achieve that. Ideally, you want to try and get a CP at the end of turning point 2, a CP during turning point 3, and then you're in a good place going forwards. If you can generate your 2 CP, he's done a fantastic job, noting that he's also probably killed 2 people to be able to achieve that. So a great operative. Okay, next up is the Curse Claw, 3 APL, 6 move, 3-up save, and 14 wounds. Armed with a bolt pistol and mutated claws, which are 5 attacks, 3s, 4, 5, and rending. So another access to rending there. This operative has the frenzied attack rule. If the operative is incapacitated during the fight action, you can strike an enemy operative in that sequence with one of your unresolved successes before this operative is removed from the kill zone. Note that can be a crit if you wanted to. One of the things I will just say, so this is another operative that has rending, and just like back to the Chaos Lord with the Ceaseless Lethal 5 rending, another one of the reasons why I think rending is so important for this team is, as I said previously, with that Firefight ploy, to be able to, if you resolve a critical success, you can fall back from someone. If you have rending, then if you get one crit, you get 2 crits, and your opponent can't just parry your crit unless they have like a double parry. They can't just parry your crit to then be able to kill you. So it gives you this like safety net by having rending if you get that crit. Really, really good. And also being able to strike on death, really good. He also has a special rule called Snatch. It's a boost action. So again, you do this during a boost. Select one enemy operative that's within this operative's boost zone. Both players roll 1d6 and add their respective operative's wound stat to their result. If your result is higher, remove that enemy operative from the kill zone and set it back up within its operative's boost zone or control range. It must be set up in a location it can be placed and cannot be set up further away from its operative than where it began. If that enemy operative is set up within this operative's control range, the fallback or reposition action ends, allowing this operative to finish that action within control range of enemy operatives. This operative cannot perform this action normally. Instead, it performs this action during the fallback or reposition action after setting up from a boost. So this is going to give you the ability to move operatives around the table and quite reliably do it, because you're going to be rolling a d6 and adding 14 to your result, and your opponent's going to be adding their wound stat to your result. So against a horde team, this is sometimes just guaranteed you're going to be able to do it, and there's nothing your opponent can roll to be able to do it, because the minimum that you can roll is 15, and the maximum for a 7 wound operative to be able to roll is 13, right? So you're always going to be able to do it against those operatives, but against other like harder to move operatives, it's going to be difficult. But this gives you an ability to move operatives around. Really, really important for crit op. If you need to get someone off of an objective, you can absolutely do that. You can move yourself onto an objective, flying over someone, and then position them the other side of you now, out of the objective range, to be able to grab them. So really, really strong. I think this is a great operative to have access to on your kill team if you need to be able to get people and shift them into areas where you don't want them to be. Note that it also gives you a mechanism to be able to get into combat on conceal and be able to kill people as well. So really strong in that respect. Now, equally, what I should say with this, the Firefight ploy that lets you move an operative, the MurderWing, it was called, this can stack with it. So 6 inches, like reposition, plus your 3. Now you have a 9-inch boost zone. You're going to be able to then grab someone and move them using that ability if you wanted to, but you couldn't then fight them. So if you want to fight them afterwards, you have to not use that ability, but something to be aware of. Okay, next up is the Predator. Standard stat line for this guy is no change there. He is armed with a bolt pistol and a great chain axe. The great chain axe is 5 attacks 4s, 5, 7 and brutal. So a little bit less reliable, only hitting on 4s, but as I said, access to balanced is quite easy to achieve. And then 2 special rules for him. So first up is horrifying dismemberment. Whenever this operative incapacitates an enemy operative while fighting or retaliating, select one other enemy operative visible to and within 3 inches of either this operative or the incapacitated enemy operative. Subtract 1 from the enemy operative's APL stat until the end of its next activation. So previously we talked about how you can get punishing. One of the things is if people don't have their full APL, this is a mechanism for you to be able to reduce people's APL by killing people in melee. So useful to note, this can stack quite well with your punishing ability. Additionally, he has the carving blow for 1 AP. Inflict 2d3 damage on each other operative visible to and within 2 inches of this operative in an order of your choice. Roll separately for each. For the purposes of an action restrictions and the Astartes faction rule, this action is treated as a fight action. This operative cannot perform this action while it has a conceal order or during the same activation in which it performed the slice from above action, see faction equipment, or vice versa. Cool. So I'm just going to quickly, I will spoil a little bit of faction equipment, but there is some faction equipment that's going to let you do damage on the charge, right? And if you're charging, you're on engage. So this model can, for 1 APL, charge someone and inflict some damage on them. He can then, for 1 APL, inflict 2d3 damage on that operative and every other operative within 2 inches of him. So you're now at 2d3 plus 1 damage, and then he can fight with his great chain axe against that operative for 5-7 damage. So minimum, your 2d3 plus 1, which is 3, and a normal hit is 5. So this guy can strike for 8 damage as a minimum in a single blow, assuming he gets a hit. But if you roll as a crit and you spike on the 2d3, you can do 7 damage on the 2d3, followed by 7 damage on the crit, and this guy can inflict a maximum of 14 damage in a single hit on entry to melee. That is bonkers, and it's a potential to one-hit an assault intercessor or a marine or something like that, and not take any damage in return. And note that if he's next to other people, he could potentially do damage to all of them as well, 2d3 to all of them for chip damage, which they're then going to proc your punishing, etc, etc. Really strong, like really strong. This guy is bonkers. The Predator is a very, very good operative with that ability to hand out APL modifications and inflict damage to people. So if you charge into 2 people, you can kill one and you can make the other one unable to fall back due to APL modifications and have done 2d3 damage to them, which is pretty gross. And then you can choose on your counteract if you want to do 2d3 damage or if you want to just try and swing your hammer at them. Really, really strong operative. Next up is the Huntsmaster, standard stat line, bolt pistol and a power weapon, which is standard 5-attack power weapon. Special rule is pinned prey. Whenever an enemy operative will perform the fallback action while within control range of this operative, if no other enemy operatives are within this operative's control range, you can use this rule. If you do, roll 2d6 or 1d6 if the enemy operative has a higher wound stat than this operative. If any result is 4+, that enemy operative cannot perform that action during the activation / counter action. No AP is spent on it. So a few things on this. This is the sort of like the standard manacles kind of ability, we're going to call it. But the enemy operative has to have a higher wound stat to be able to roll a single d6. Otherwise, it's a 75% chance that you're going to be able to keep them in combat, which is really good because you're keeping them in combat with someone who has 5 attacks power weapon, which is pretty gross, and he's probably done some damage to you on the way in anyway. Okay, another ability though, strike from above. It's a boost action, inflict 2d3 plus 1 damage on one enemy operative within this operative's boost zone. This operative cannot perform this action normally. Instead, it performs this action during the fallback or reposition action after setting up from a boost. So, you can basically jump over someone with your reposition or with a fallback, and you can do 2d3 plus 1 damage on them, which is pretty gross. So, let's say that you have like 1 wound left in melee, and the enemy operative has like 4 or 5 wounds left, whatever, and you don't want to take the risk of you not rolling a hit or a crit, and you just go, okay, well, I'm just going to fall back and do 2d3 plus 1 damage to you, and just kill you during that fallback action for 3 APL. It's kind of a cool ability, or if you know you're not going to charge like someone and you just want to be able to move over them and do damage, it's a good way of being able to do that chip damage that you want to be able to do. So a great ability to be able to have. Okay, next up is the Raptor. So this is your warrior operative. So as I said previously, standard stat line can have a bolt pistol, plasma pistol, or a chainsword. All sort of like standard stat lines that you'd expect for them. The special rule is thrill of flight. Whenever this operative does a boost action during its activation, but I'm pretty sure you can only do a boost during activation anyway. You can remove any changes to its APL stat. You can ignore any changes to its stats from being injured, including its weapon stats, until the end of the activation. So if you're boosting and moving around, then you're going to be able to have ignore all changes to APL and ignore injury. Not bad, but I think the specialists are just a lot better. So generically, I think you probably don't want to move on to the specialist options most of the time, because plasmas and chainsword are good, but the specialists are just outperforming them, in my opinion. Next up, we have the Shrieker, standard stat line. Bolt pistol and chainsword are standard, but 2 special rules. First one is modified Vox casters. Whenever an enemy operative is within 3 inches of this operative, your opponent must spend 1 additional AP for that enemy operative to perform the pickup marker and mission actions. Really good against teams that you think is going to be taking sort of retrieval or something like that, or any of those sorts of abilities, or plant devices on your home objectives, because this guy is going to be able to sit there and say you have to spend an extra APL, which means you can be really good at locking down those objectives. Additionally, whenever determining control of a marker, treat the total APL stat of enemy operatives that contest it as 1 lower if at least one of these enemy operatives is within 3 inches of operative. Note this isn't a change to the APL stats. Any changes are cumulative with this. What that means is that if you stun someone and they become 1 less APL, and then you also have this rule, then they're going to count as 1 less again. So if you have a sort of 2 operatives that are two APL operatives, usually a 4 APL hold on an objective, one of them is stunned, so now it's 3 APL, and this guy is within 3 inches of one of them, now it counts as 2 APL. So really strong ability, really good objective holder. This guy is going to be able to play the mission really well. But he also has the Shriek ability, which is select one enemy operative that is visible to and within 6 inches of this operative. Alternatively, select one enemy operative within this operative's boost zone, at which point this becomes a boost action. If enemy operatives are within control range of this operative, you cannot select an enemy operative that isn't. Inflict D3 damage on that selected operative and subtract 1 from its APL stat until the end of its next activation. So another way of being able to hand out APL modifiers. Note that if you're in melee, so if you charge someone, you have to focus on someone that you are in melee with. But again, if you charge 2 people, you can say, okay, well, I'm going to make you now minus 1 APL and put D3 damage on you, and I'm going to kill the guy that hasn't yet activated or whatever to be able to do it. Note that this operative cannot perform this action while it has a conceal order, and if you are selecting an enemy operative within this operative's boost zone, this operative cannot perform this action normally. Instead, it performs this action during the fallback or reposition action after setting up from a boost. So if you're going to just jump over people with a boost and use it then you need to be on engage, and you can do it during a fallback or reposition. Or if you charge someone, it has to be someone in your engagement range. Or if you do it post killing someone in melee, you can choose anyone visible to within 6, as long as you're on engage. Overall, a really strong ability. It's a guaranteed APL reduction, right, which is really useful for a melee team that potentially wants to hide in melee, which means, yeah, handing out those APL modifiers, saying, yep, you're not going anywhere, I'm now going to hold on to you and hug you whilst I'm a big evil marine that has a chainsword, is always going to be a good plan, and also going to help you hold down those objectives. The Sky Seers, this is your gunner operative. Standard stat line for the gunners. Note, does have a bolt pistol. You can have a flamer and then take 2 plasma pistols in your team if you wanted to. But I think most of the time you're going to be wanting to take either the melter gun or the plasma gun. I do think the plasma gun is good, and I say that because access to so much punishing and being on vantage all the time makes it really useful. So the melter gun is going to be good against elites, but note that if you're not on the vantage, you're going to be losing potentially some of your reliability buffs, whereas with lethal 5 and access to balance and that sort of thing, you're going to be able to potentially do some quite mean things at range, and the 6-inch range can become limiting if you're on vantage, because unless you're like directly overhead them or whatever, then you might not be able to get in range. But map dependent, consider melter gun versus plasma gun. I think both are good options. I don't think the flamer is too relevant, although I guess it is worth noting that it does have saturate, and if you're going to be on a vantage shooting someone who's on conceal quite a lot, they're going to have double cover saves. So maybe if you're killing, and fighting against particularly weak operatives, then maybe the flamer has a place. But it's only 3/3 damage. I don't know. I'm just a bit dubious. I think the majority of the time the melter gun and the plasma gun is going to do you better, but it's just worth noting it's a way to get around that double retain that they will get as a result of their cover saves. Okay, next up is the MurderWing Warp Talon. Standard stat line, has access to lightning claws, which are 5 attacks, 3s, 4, 5, ceaseless, lethal 5, and rending. So just note again, another access to lethal 5, another access to rending when it comes to defensive stats. So really good for punishing and really good for your ploys to be able to fall back if you need to. Special ability called Slice the Veil. When setting up this operative before the battle, you can set it up in the warp instead. Place it to one side, instead of in the kill zone. In the first firefight phase, when this operative is activated, place one of your warp markers wholly within your territory, then expend this operative. In the second firefight phase, i.e. the second turning point, when this operative is activated, set it up with an order of your choice in a location that it can be placed either wholly within your drop zone or wholly within your territory contesting your warp marker. Continuous activation is normal, but during that activation it cannot perform more than 2 actions and cannot use more than 4 inches of move distance. Until the ready step of the next strategy phase, this operative is obscured to operatives more than 3 inches from it. Whenever this operative is in the warp, it cannot be the ready, friendly, murdering operative for the malicious narcissism Firefly ploy. So essentially you can't just delay your activation on turning point 2 and have this guy go last as a token, but on turning point 1 you're going to put a token out. It's probably going to be on like an area where it can touch an objective. Note that you can be essentially 1 inch away from that token and then have your base overlapping, so you get quite a lot of like range with this. But if someone goes too close to that token, you can turn up an engagement range, you can kill them and then you can move away. Or you can put yourself onto an objective and then move off the objective and do what you want to do. So the fact that you have recon and access to this means that it's quite a good option for retrieval. And with 5 attacks, 3s, 4, 5 ceaseless, at least 5 rending, he is a pretty violent melee operative as well. That's going to be able to do some mean things in melee. Okay, faction equipment. The last bit to be able to just talk through. Blade fins, let's begin with that. So essentially these are going to be boost actions. So for any murder operatives can perform the following unique action. Slice from above, it's 1 AP, it's a boost action, inflict D3 plus 1 damage on one enemy operative within this operative's boost zone. An operative cannot perform this action normally, instead it performs the action during the fallback or reposition action after setting up from a boost. A Predator operative cannot perform his action in the same activation in which it performed the Carving Blow, or vice versa. So Carving Blow is the 2d3 to everyone that's nearby. So what it's saying is that you can't do 2d3 damage to everyone nearby, then fall back from those people, and on the way out do another d3 plus 1 to someone. That would be too much damage. But this is okay. I think unless you want to lean into shooting, the fact it's costing you an AP, I'd rather most of the time just shoot someone with a bolt pistol. It's nice, it's guaranteed damage, but I think either you want to be charging people and killing them, or you want to be going in and shooting them. So this is I mean, it's fine. It's some free damage. It's nice you can do it on conceal, but it's nothing to get too excited about in my opinion. Clawed armor gives you a different unique action, which is 0 AP, which is nice. So you're getting it for free. It's a boost action, and it's inflict 1 damage on one enemy operative within its operative's control range, then the charge action ends. An operative cannot perform its action normally, instead it performs the action during the charge action after setting up from a boost. So this is really good, because this is going to be every time you charge someone, you do a 0 AP action, and that means that you're going to do 1 damage on that enemy operative. This is how I said that a Predator can get that extra bit of chip damage. So you can charge for 1 AP, you can do a free clawed charge, which is 0 AP, which gives you 1 damage. Then you do 1 AP for 2d3 damage, so you now have 2d3 plus 1, and then you fight, and you're looking for that crit to be able to do 14 damage. Crazy amount of damage output available. Again, if you're able to just charge people, it then means that you're potentially going to have access to punishing later on, because you're giving people chip damage all over the place. Really good for getting around a lot of breakpoints that certain operatives have. So this is really, really strong. I recommend that you take this probably most games. You're going to be doing a lot of charging. It's just free damage output that's going to massively help the reliability of your team. Okay, next up is Warp Fuel. Once per turning point, whenever an enemy operative ends the fallback action during its activation, if at least one friendly murdering operative was within its control range at the start of that action, you can use this rule. One of those friendly operatives can immediately perform a free reposition or charge action, but cannot use more than 3 inches of move distance. Note that this operative doesn't perform the fallback during its own activation. This has no effect. So this is going to give you basically a free move away when someone runs away from you, so you can like disappear off. Or oddly, if there's an enemy operative that's like nearby, you can then charge into them. So the way that I think this can come up and be useful, and I think it is a useful piece of equipment, is you've charged someone. There is someone else that's kind of nearby to you. That model then falls back. You then disappear off and charge the other model, and now you're still locked in combat with someone else. A useful piece of equipment to be able to have access to, I think, as some more tricksy plays. And then finally, Voxcasters. Once per turning point, one friendly murdering operative can perform the following unique action. It's Vox Cry. It's 1 AP. Each enemy operative within 3 inches of operative takes a stun test. For an operative to take a stun test, roll 1d6 on a 3+, subtract 1 from its APL stat until the end of its next activation. An operative cannot perform its action while it has a conceal order. So note that you can do this in melee. So you can charge for 1. You can do a clawed charge, which is a boost action, for free. Then you can do everyone within 3 inches takes a stun test and potentially loses an APL, and then you can fight and kill someone. So really strong ability. This is going to keep people locked in combat with you. It makes those APL modifiers really, really important. And I think that personally, this is a huge buff to sort of the team's ability, and the synergy with punishing all that sort of stuff is massive. So for me, I think Clawed Armor and Voxcasters you're taking most of the time. Warp Fuel you're taking fairly regularly, and then Blade Fins you're probably dropping. I think you want that instead to be the standard equipment to block off routes or give you balances or whatever else you want to try and have on your kill team. I think that's the one that I would drop first and foremost. Okay, so that is the overview of the rules. I'm just going to do just a quick summary. I think this is an incredible set of rules for this team. I think they are so strong, and I think they need to be nerfed probably immediately. Right, so my gut reaction when reading this is these rules make sense if this team is 5 operatives. The fact that this team is 6 operatives is bonkers to me. And I know that they do a lot of damage output that's trading damage because it's a melee team and it's a flying melee team, so it's going to feel like you're trading operatives. But if you play this team intelligently, I feel like you can very, very easily set up one-way charges where you're going to be able to stage on vantages and places that your opponent won't be able to reach, and then when you're up there, you're more defensive. They can't necessarily hit you or shoot you, or if they do, you've got rerolls, and then you're going to be able to charge and infect them, and they're not going to be able to fight you back. Against horde teams, you can wait out your last activation. Against other elite teams, you can do sufficient chip damage to be able to get their break points to the point in which you can then kill them with the right operatives. You have an operative that can kill someone in a single hit. You have operatives like the Chaos Lord with his 4/6, lethal 5, rending, ceaseless, balanced, punishing. He's also going to do a damage on the charge. Then he's got a damnation point, so he's able to essentially one-shot 8 wound operatives. Then the next turn he can one-shot 9 wound operatives. That is it's just a bonkers amount of stuff to have. And I think if you said this was a 5 operative kill team, it would be okay. The fact that this is a 6 operative kill team is not okay. This is one that I think needs to be probably nerfed immediately. I think I don't know how soon they can be nerfed when it comes to data slates. And I think the easiest way to nerf this team is just to have them be 5 operatives. What's your guys' thoughts on that? Is there because you could try and salami slice this team, right? You could make each operative slightly worse. You could go through and make boosts slightly worse. You could try and make the ploys slightly worse. You could do that, and it would be hundreds of changes to this team, I think, to be able to get them into line. Or you just go, this team is bonkers. They're really, really strong. Bam, 5 operatives. Give them the Death Watch treatment. You get to be good. You get to have all these special spicy rules, but you don't get to have 6 operatives. One of the battles that I play with them, because I sort of try to see how they would play, I basically had a Warp Talon just playing objectives and not killing stuff. I still tabled my opponent. I still sort of like got loads of good points, and I don't think I played an intelligent game. I just ran forward on advantage. I charged people that I could see, and I didn't even use all my operatives, and I was still fine. So for me, I think this team needs like an emergency nerf. I think they are probably more strong than Wolf Scouts, and I think they're going to be easier to play than Wolf Scouts, and more forgiving to play than Wolf Scouts. And I think a lot of people are going to get frustrated by just Marines flying at them in a straight line and killing them. And I don't think that's going to be great for the meta. My key takeaways for people that are interested in like how it affects the meta, before I get too off track from this rules review, is it's a lot of APL like reduction being handed out, and it's a heavy melee team. So consider how you're going to be able to deal with melee teams and be able to do that. They don't have great shooting, right? So they only have really 2 plasma weapons and bolt pistols. So don't have great shooting, but they are very, very effective in melee. They can do great chip damage to you, and they can really, really hurt you in that respect. I'm sure there's going to be a bunch of people that are very excited to play this team. Before I got the rules, I started making proxies. So I've got like a Raptors Killteam as in like loyalist version that I've made and that sort of stuff. But I think this team needs to go down to 5 operatives. I think that is the best way to do it. I'd rather, even if in future that those operatives need to be buffed to make them better and they need more wounds and stuff, that's absolutely fine. But just make them 5 operatives is probably the quickest and easiest way to solve this, because otherwise I think we're going to be in a MurderWing meta for a few months to come, I believe. I might be wrong, but that's my take. In the description, what do you guys think? You've probably seen both now, right? You've seen the Sisters, you've seen the MurderWing. Sisters feel like a solid B tier team. MurderWing feel like a solid A tier, S tier team. So, but what's your guys' opinion? Is there something I've missed? Is there something in the rules there that you think, nope, Ryan's not got it? I see the weakness in this team. It's actually this thing that means that they're going to be able to be absolutely dunked on, or do you think maybe I'm reading it right? Interested to hear your guys' thoughts. So I'm going to do a deep dive. We'll talk about the tactics of this team. I've already done some of it there, but I will try and go into a bit more detail, talk about operative selection, that sort of stuff, and how you can use them. So check out that on the Patreon initially, and that will come out in a few weeks for non-Patreon members. So thank you so much for watching. Hope that was useful, and I'll see you all next time. That brings us to the end of the episode. Hopefully you found something new or useful while listening, and if you did, throwing us a like would be greatly appreciated. If you want to make sure you don't miss any episodes, make sure you hit that subscribe button and click on the bell so you get notifications as soon as the next one drops. It really is the best way to help a small channel like ours. And if you can't wait and you do want early access, we have a Patreon where you can get exclusive access to all our content ahead of time. As always, we'd love to hear your thoughts and feedback. Just drop a comment below and we'll get right to you. Thank you so much for listening. I'm your host Ryan, this has been Turning Point Tactics, and we'll see you next week.